Hi, so this is a short video about how best to wear an obi in iaido. There are quite a few videos on the net which show you some really good ways of tying an obi. I'll link one to Paul Shin's video below this video so that you can watch his first. It's got a really nice and clear way of explaining it. To build on Paul's video, I just want to show you that in fact there's quite a few different variations of obi. This is a kind of standard one where the thickness of the obi is uniform both in this direction and in this direction as well. So it's the same thickness and the same width. This is the one I usually use, to be honest now. And it's not even stretchable, but you can get stretchable obis like this one. So this is called a nobiru obi, so it's slightly elastic. And the other thing to notice is that just like Paul explains, the ends here, from this point to here, so that's nearly a whole metre, is made out of a thinner part of the fabric. It doesn't have the same padding as the middle part of the obi. So this part is used for making the knot, and this part is the bit that goes around your body. Here is also a typical kaku obi. These are normally the same thickness throughout. It's a real kind of traditional cotton obi. We should be careful though. We can wear these in the dojo and at kind of closed seminars, but for formal practice in a seminar or a taikai or a grading, then we should be wearing just a normal black or white or blue obi, preferably the same colour as your keikogi. Here's the last type I wanted to show you. So this is both different at the ends in both its width. You can see here the difference in width and its thickness as well. It's very slightly thinner than it is around the body. So again, this is the part used for tying the knot. But what I'm going to use is just the uniform one, which is the same thickness and same width throughout. Because the way that I've adapted the way that I tie my obi is so that it doesn't really matter which obi I wear, I don't have to change the knot. So this is a slightly adapted version of what's called the kai no kuchi musubi, which means the shellfish mouth. Now this video isn't really focused on how to tie the knot, it's how tight to make the obi to make iaido a little bit easier to do, and in order that you can control your katana. So for this length of obi, I usually start off by just placing it here and wrapping around and bringing this long end over the top of the shorter end. So the shorter end is actually hanging down here, which is slightly different to the standard kai no kuchi no musubi. And then I take it around one more time. And I'm going to give it another turn, because what I ideally want at the front of my obi is about 3 layers. I generally find 3 is the ideal number. 2 doesn't really give you the right amount of security on the sword, and 4 just makes it very, very thick. So I'm going to aim for 3 layers. Now what I'm going to try and do is make these approximately the same length after I've folded the loose end underneath all the layers of the obi, like so. And it's only now I'm going to make sure everything's nice and flat so I don't get a bunched knot. I'm then going to double this over here, and I'm going to double it over here. And then I'm just going to tie what's in the right hand over the top of the left hand. Tuck it under. And then I've got a nice flat knot with short ends on it as well, so these don't end up flapping around or falling outside of the hakama. I'll just pull that a little bit tighter, like so. Okay, so now I've got something which is a little bit like the kai no kuchi no musubi, but works with all different kinds of obi. I don't have to worry about changing the way I tie the knot. Now, the tightness is the key thing. So I've now tied this to the point. If I now relax my tummy muscles, I can. This is now just about pushing against the obi. I can get my thumbs in. It's a bit harder to get my hands in. Okay, if I just relax my tummy muscles, this is a bit too tight. But if I now loosen my tummy muscles, sorry, if I pull my tummy muscles in slightly, I can easily get my hands in then. So this is just on the edge of being tight if I push out, but loose if I pull my muscles in. So this gives me just the right amount of control. Okay, let me show you how I achieved that tightness now. So it really starts at this point here. Once I've brought it around, and I'm just about to lay it over the top, I've now got this very slightly tightened, so if I push out my tummy muscles, if I just relax my tummy muscles, it's a little bit tight, just a little bit tight. And now I keep that same tightness. What I'm not going to do, while I'm wrapping this around me, I'm not going to keep pulling it tighter and tighter. I'm just going to make sure that each layer sits snugly and firmly over the top of the previous layer. So I'm not additionally tightening it. When I get to here, again I'm going to be careful to not pull it too tight or anything like this. It's just laying on top. Okay? It's laying on top, you know, snugly, firmly against it, but I'm not additionally pulling it tighter. And now I'll do the knots as I did before. So you can see then that in order for me to put the layer of the obi beneath, I had to suck my tummy muscles in slightly. Now I'll do this tying of the knot. How you do this is really up to you, whatever works for you, but it's the tightness which is important. Now once I've done this, once I pull this tight, it doesn't matter how hard I pull this, it won't make the obi any tighter. But I don't want to pull this so hard that it makes the knot kind of turn into a great big ball. I want it to remain quite flat. Okay, so you can see how easy it is for me. If I just tuck my tummy muscles in slightly now, I can easily slide this around me. It doesn't even bunch my waggy up as I do this. It just easily slides around. And if I want to tighten it, I relax my tummy muscles, and now it's tight. And now I can move it, but it's much, much tighter. I have to slightly pull my tummy muscles in order to move it easily. Okay. Now it's the hakama ties that actually give the sword a bit more security. So this feels nice now. It doesn't feel like it's pulled up against me. It's just holding everything in place. Now important that the hakama lies on top of the obi, maybe with 1 or 2 millimeters of the obi emerging out the top. And then this has got to go around all the way around the back. Of course it goes above the knot here. Above the knot. Now here I am going to pull it a bit tighter, so it's gripping against the obi now, and I'm going to maintain that tightness and actually pull it a little bit tight here, not too tight. Again, there are various ways to tie the hakama, but what I would stress is that the hakama should be tighter than the obi, not so tight that it bunches the obi up or it cuts off blood supply to your legs. And then again pulling a little bit tighter as I tie the knot, just to keep everything secure. And then the same thing with the back himo. I'm going to try to make sure that the himo exactly follow the himo from the first tying. So these will lay exactly over the top and follow the same path to the knot here. Again, I'm going to make sure that this is pulled a little bit tightly. Now at this point here, I've just pushed my tummy out just to make sure that it's not too tight. It feels like it's nice and secure, and that's all I need. So what's really more important than anything else is that your hakama ties don't become loose. In fact, if the obi loosens up a little bit, it doesn't really matter too much. It's really important the hakama remain very, very secure. Now the obi, some obis are made from cotton, so as you sweat, it's likely that the the fabric will slightly stretch. So, but the Hakamers normally have no cotton in them. These are purely synthetic. So these won't stretch as you get sweaty, whereas the obi will. But it doesn't matter. The obi, it's the tightness is maintained by the Hakama, not the obi. Now, with the Hakama being tied reasonably tight, it means that I can secure my sword quite nicely just by having it with one layer of obi over the top. It's difficult to see with the camera, but I've only got this beneath one of the layers of the obi, and the rest of it is all being secured by the Hakama himo. Of course, as I push this through, this now goes above the lower Hakama himo, so this stops the sword from doing this a little bit. Okay. Now, let me just tie the sagyo out of the way for a second. Okay, so it's now at a tightness where if I push my tummy muscles out, if I put some effort into pushing my tummy muscles out, it utterly locks the sword. You can see that I can push the sword down and up, and it's really kind of stiff. Okay. Now the centre of gravity of the sword is about here. I need the sword to be a little bit forward out of the obi to make sure that this remains reasonably horizontal. And then when you do this, you'll probably find that the centre of the tsuba aligns itself quite nicely with your centre. If you're just a few centimetres back though, as time goes by, this will start to rise up. So a little bit forward is fine. Now with the obi this loose and the Hakama this tight, I'm still quite able to make saibiki, keeping my small finger in contact with my body. I can bring the sword all the way around here and bring it back, or I can make this even easier by just tucking my tummy muscles in slightly, and now it's really easy to move. Okay, it moves around easily, and then when I now relax my tummy muscles, and now it's fixed, and it won't really rock around too much. Okay, so if I now do nukitsuke and I bring the saya back, it stays in this position. Now look at this position. This is very slightly to the right of my Hakama knot. So it's gone just 1 centimetre further across my body. It doesn't look like it's kind of pointing out like this, but this is just enough now to keep this in place. And now even if I relax my tummy muscles, the saya doesn't move. If I really pull in my tummy muscles to make the obi loose, it's still in the right place. Okay, but I guess between different people and between men and women with different hip height and protrusion of bone, this will be slightly different. But at the moment, because I can control the tightness of this, it means that when I want to secure the saya, I just relax my tummy muscles, and now the natural tension is keeping it here. And when I want to have this loose so that I can do saibiki, I just very slightly pull my tummy muscles in, just for a moment, and then it goes back. And I don't really need to pull them in very much either. It's the difference between this is relaxed and this is loosening off. See how loose that is now? And then if I relax, and now it's much more harder to move. I can feel the friction of the obi against the saya. Okay, experiment is the best way, and I'm sure you'll find the optimal way to have this so that you can control the saya during your iaido.